Hey Science Squad, welcome back. We're here and we're going to do the second experiment from the first book of the Science Squad, Don't Bomb the Test. You may remember that in the story, the boys got a hidden message from Dr. Rosen. They couldn't see what it said. Thankfully, Simon knew that he could reveal this message through a chemical reaction. And we're going to show you how to make your own invisible ink and reveal it by causing an acid-base chemical reaction. So let's take a look at the procedure of this experiment here. This is on page 72 of your Science Squad book. So Soraya, why don't you go ahead and read the first step of our procedure?
Mix a 1/4 cup of baking soda and a 1/4 cup of water in your container until baking soda dissolves.
Okay, so we're going to dissolve some baking soda, okay, and it said a 1/4 cup. So I have a measuring cup, a 1/4 cup measure for dry material. So Sarai is going to go ahead and get a 1/4 cup of baking soda in there. And it also said 1/4 cup of water. So I have a measuring cup here that's for liquid. Okay, this is a liquid measuring cup. You can see you could pour it, it's for liquid. So she's going to fill this to the 1/4 cup mark. All right, so Sarai has a 1/4 cup of the baking soda. Now she's going to add that to a container. In this case, we're just going to use this cup here. All right, so we have the baking soda in the cup. Now she's going to get a 1/4 cup. She's going to look for that 1/4 measurement and fill it to the 1/4 cup mark with the water. That's kind of heavy. You got this one? I'll help you here. You tell me when it's at 1/4 cup. You ready?
Stop.
Okay. She said I stopped too late. I went a little bit above. You know what? That's okay if it's not exact. I think it will still be fine. The important thing when you do this, the important thing at home is that you have enough water to dissolve the baking soda. And if you remember from the glossary in the back of your book, dissolve means it's going to kind of disappear. The baking soda, you won't be able to see the powder anymore. It's going to mix with the water and sort of disappear in the water. In science, we call that it dissolves, okay? So go ahead, pour that in there. Great. And now we're just going to simply stir. We happen to have a popsicle stick here handy, so you can use that for your stir. Just need something to stir. You can use a spoon or whatever you have available. And she's going to stir, and we're making what's called a solution, which is when one substance dissolves in another substance like water. So we're dissolving baking soda in the water. And so what we're making is we're making a base or alkali solution. Okay, because baking soda is what we call a weak base. And you see that in the book, it talks about that, and in the glossary, it defines that. So you could look more about that if you need to remember what that means. But basically, a weak base is what it sounds like. It's not a very strong chemical. It's not a strong base, but it is a base, and it will react with an acid, which is what this experiment's going to be all about, making an acid-base reaction. So this is going to be our invisible writing. When it dries on the paper, you won't be able to see this writing anymore. So what's the next step? What are we actually going to do? We mixed it. Now what?
Dip the Q-tip into the baking soda solution you just made, and then use it to write a message on a piece of paper.
Okay. So for our pen or pencil, whatever we're going to write with, we're going to use a Q-tip and simply dip it into a solution you made and then start writing on your paper, okay? And you'll be able to see what you're writing while it's wet, but once it dries, it's going to kind of vanish and disappear. You won't be able to see what you wrote anymore until you create a chemical reaction. So Soraya, here you go. Here's your Q-tip. You're going to do your secret message, whatever you like to write, and we'll take a look at how to make it reveal after it dries. So you're going to have to do your writing first, then let it dry. Put it somewhere safe so it can dry. So go ahead and do some writing here. Dip it in the solution. And I'll let you take a close-up look of what this looks like as she's writing, okay? Here she is. You could see she's using that, and every now and then you dip it back in, kind of like you're water painting almost, right? So you dip it back in there to get it wet, and you could kind of see where the writing is because it's a little bit wet. But once it dries, you won't be able to see anything at all. So really, you could only see now while it's wet. And once it dries, you won't be able to see it at all. And I'll show you a little secret. If you don't feel like waiting for, a long time, however many minutes for this to air dry, I'll let you in on a little way to make it dry faster. If you have a hair dryer available, that's a safe way to speed up this process. Okay, if you don't feel like waiting for your secret writing to dry and air dry, because that may take, it could take over 10 minutes or more depending on the temperature of the room and, many factors. What you can do is you could speed up the process by using a hair dryer. Now, of course, you got to ask your parents or your teacher or whatever grown-up is helping you through this experiment for permission to do this, and you should be supervised before you use any type of device like this. Please don't plug it in yourself, and please make sure you're supervised. But if you're properly supervised and you have permission, then you could use your hair dryer to blow some warm air over the paper and speed up the drying. So that's what we're going to do now. Ready? All right. Oh. So we'll tune in again once this is dry. Okay, now's the exciting part. Now it's time, now that your paper's dry and the writing is now invisible, now's the fun part. Now you get to actually make the invisible writing reappear. And how you're going to do that, again, just like Simon did, is you're going to go ahead and use an acid, a weak acid, nothing too strong. So we happen to have some grape juice, okay? We poured a bit of grape juice into this cup, and we have some little paint brushes that we're going to use to paint over our writing. And when this acid hits the base of the baking soda, a chemical reaction takes place. And one of the signs of a chemical reaction, one of the possible signs of a chemical reaction, is a color change. And that's what's going to occur here. When the acid and the base come together and make a chemical reaction, you're going to see a color change that's going to make your invisible writing reappear. So Soraya is going to go ahead and grab a paintbrush and begin to brush over her invisible writing. And I'll do the same thing with my paintbrush. And we'll show you what's going on. We'll give you a close-up of what we're actually seeing happen right now, okay? So this is Soraya's paper. Let me get a little closer, and you could see that her writing is what was once invisible. You couldn't see it, is now appearing, and it's turning sort of like this kind of greenish gray color as she goes over it with the grape juice. Pretty interesting, pretty fascinating. So we'll show you the end result after she's all done going over her invisible writing using the grape juice. We'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so we did our experiment, we got the results, and we're going to show you what we wrote. One thing Soraya observed and she was commenting on was, what did you observe, Soraya?
That the words are squished together because you can't see them when you're writing them.
So it is kind of hard to see what you're writing when you're writing with invisible ink. Even though when you first write it, it's a little wet and you could see it, you might find when you reveal your message, your writing is a little bit messier. Like if I look at my handwriting, I'll let you take a look at this here. All right, my writing's a bit messier than I anticipated. Go ahead, Soraya, and show them your result here. And you can see it comes out pretty cool. This really cool kind of greenish, light greenish, grayish color is the color created by that chemical reaction. And this is really fun. So you could go ahead and write all these secret messages, leave them around, and no one could read them unless they know the secret of how to reveal the secret message, which is to use a weak acid like grape juice to create a chemical reaction with the base that you wrote with, the baking soda solution, and then you'll reveal the secret writing, just like we saw in the book.